All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk, Uygur, and Kasparian with you guys. Every day feels like Groundhog's Day. I'm back, and we're back at Kavanaugh, Susan Collins, Trump, and the list goes on. But I do need you guys to panic because there's only 28 days left before the election. To which my grandmother would say, whoa, okay. 28 days, guys, up and at 'em. You got to go out there and register, by the way, tyt.com/register. I'm going to talk more about this on Rebel Headquarters. That link only leads you to a government website where you can pick your own state, etc. We just want to make it easy for you guys because the URLs are unmanageable. So tyt.com/register to find out how to register because there's only a couple of days left in most of the states. Okay, and in fact, Taylor Swift spoke out about that, and we're going to have that a little bit later in the program. We got a great Rebel Headquarters, a great all schools on Wednesday, obviously. Post game for you guys today, where I'll talk a little bit about my New York, New Jersey trip. For those of you who are members, you should have already received some bitsies, some behind the scenes about my hotel. I asked you guys a question, etc. So tyt.com/join to become a member. We got to keep that going, guys. Membership drive. We got to keep it going. We got to keep it going. A little above 32,600 as we speak now. But we gotta push forward, and obviously, if you're a member, you get all parts of the show. And on last thing, and then we'll do the stories. Election day. It's not just election night. Election day. We're going to have about 12 hours of coverage live throughout the entire day. Obviously, a great number of hosts, guests, etc. here, internal, external, but also on Facebook.com/RebelHQ. We are going to have an extravaganza. We're hoping to get a lot of different candidates' offices and other progressive outlets all in one place for you guys. So make sure you're telling everybody about election night, including your right-wing friends. If we lose, they'll make videos out of it. If we win, I suspect not as many smug videos. So all of that for you guys. So, all right, Anna, what's on tap today?
All right. Well, there was big news over the weekend. Over the weekend, the Senate voted to confirm Brett Kavanaugh as our newest Supreme Court justice. And Donald Trump wanted to make the rounds, media rounds, to gloat about his accomplishment. And first person he called was Judge Jeanine Pirro on Fox News. And Pirro asked him about the moment that he decided to stop being so nice to Dr. Blasey Ford and mock her during a rally in Mississippi. Now, we're gonna give you his answer to that in just a minute, but for those of you who might have missed those comments during that Mississippi rally, here's what he said.
What he's going through, 36 years ago, this happened. I had one beer, right? I had one beer. Well, do you think it was, nope, it was one beer. Oh, good. How did you get home? I don't remember. How'd you get there? I don't remember. Where is the place? I don't remember. How many years ago was it? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. What neighborhood was it in? I don't know. Where's the house? I don't know. Upstairs, downstairs, where was it? I don't know. But I had one beer. That's the only thing I remember.
So that was the moment where he decided that he wanted to attack Dr. Blasey Ford. Prior to that, he said that she was very much credible. And so what happened? Well, let's hear what he had to say when he called into Judge Jeanine Pirro's show.
Mr. President, you have a very uncanny instinct. You have a gut sense of things, and you were very disciplined after Christine Ford came out and the left was going wacky. But there was one point where you pivoted at a rally in Mississippi just a few days ago.
Well, there were a lot of things happening that weren't correct. They weren't true. And there were a lot of things that were left unsaid. And I thought I had to even the playing field because it was very unfair to judge. Now I can, very nicely say Justice Kavanaugh.
Right, right.
It was a very unfair situation. So I evened the playing field. And once I did that, it started to sail through.
Okay. So unfortunately, I have to say that this works. So the Jeanine Pirro calling the left wacky is hilarious. And Donald Trump saying, well, once I weighed in, it sailed through. No, it made even some of the Republicans that wound up voting for it, like Flake and Collins, reconsider because it was such an ugly attack and they had to denounce the attack. They wound up voting for Kavanaugh despite what Trump said, not in favor, not because of what Donald Trump said. He could have hurt his cause significantly by doing that. And what drives me crazy is that some people, while they deride what he said, say, well, I mean, he did make a case, persuasive case against Blasey Ford. What, are you mental? No, he didn't. None of those things were true. She remembers if it was upstairs or downstairs. She talked about going up the stairs. She talked about running down the stairs. She remembers what year it was. Okay, so as usual, it was just filled with lies. So, but why do I say it works? Because the guy goes out there, and this is one of the few things he does right. He just forcefully makes his case over and over and over again, and he establishes a beachhead, and then everybody's playing defense. And this is the anti-Obama. I mean, he's anti-Obama in that he has no intellect. He has no concern about what's right or wrong, but he's also anti-Obama in making his case. Obama would whisper about the things that he did. Whereas this guy goes out there and lays down a hammer, and look, he's got his fawning praise like Jeanine Pirro out there just kissing his ass left and right during that interview, right? But for his crowd, it definitely rallies them, and at least he puts, as George W. Bush used to say, he catapults the propaganda. And the Democrats are, as usual, a whimper here and a whisper there, and barely any fight back.
This narrative of everything being so unfair for Kavanaugh is something that I have a hard time understanding. So which part was this unfair toward Kavanaugh? Was the sham FBI investigation the part that was unfair to Kavanaugh? Was the fact that Kavanaugh lied repeatedly during that hearing unfair to Kavanaugh? Was it unfair that despite everything, Kavanaugh still got confirmed to the Supreme Court? Was that unfair to Kavanaugh? Was it unfair to Kavanaugh that everyone else seems to be held at a much higher standard when it comes to partisanship, when it comes to decorum, when it comes to the way that they carry themselves during this hearing? But for some reason, Kavanaugh can go on this tirade, a very partisan tirade, and still get confirmed to the Supreme Court. Was that unfair to Kavanaugh? Was it unfair to Kavanaugh that Dr. Christine Blasey Ford's life has been completely destroyed in order to come out and share with the public what she went through? But none of it really mattered, and in the end, he got confirmed anyway. Was that unfair to Kavanaugh? I don't understand this narrative of it's so unfair to Kavanaugh. He is the exact example of privilege that gets talked about over and over again, where he can carry himself in any way he chooses, and he still gets confirmed to the highest court of the land.
Well, no, but in their minds, it is unfair. And look, part of it is I don't want to say understandable, but I do want to say I get it. If you think that he was, it wasn't him, and Christine Blasey Ford in cahoots with the Democrats just totally made it up and said, okay, and made up a story that somehow holds after all these years, and all the details check out, right? So if you're in that camp, then you'd say, well, he was going to pass anyway, Anna and Cenk, and they smeared him on his way in. Okay, so we get it, we understand, but that doesn't seem to match the facts at all. I guess that doesn't bother you. I know what people like Susan Collins are hanging their hat on. Oh, I'm sure it did happen to her, and I believe her in every part of her testimony, except when she says she's 100% certain that it was Kavanaugh. That's the one thing I choose not to believe because it's convenient. Trump is a monster. He doesn't care if it happened to her or didn't. He's like, what? It's unfair to point it out. Why is she yapping about something where he almost raped her? But it was a long time ago. What's the big deal, right? He literally thinks it's no big deal because he's pushed women up against the wall, grabbed their genitalia, bragged about it, etc. And he's like, now this is a big thing. But to answer Anna's question, yes. So it took me a long time to realize this because it is not my perspective. There are some folks in this country who come at things from a point of privilege. And I'm not just talking about white privilege, and I think that's an overbroad term, and if you're a poor person in the middle of Nebraska, you think I don't have much privilege, etc. But there are some powerful folks in this country who have had privilege for a long, long time. And they think you even questioning their privilege is so unfair.
Right.
They should have everything in the world, plus you should shut up about it.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I meant when I brought up privilege. Different from white privilege. It's specifically wealth privilege, right? Where you've been connected, you've lived a certain type of lifestyle your entire life. Things have been easier for you. You went to this private school, private prep school. No one's ever questioned you before, right? You've gotten away with so much your entire life. And so you finally get to this point where you're in the national spotlight, everyone's paying attention to you, and people are questioning your fitness for, again, the highest court of the land. And for people who might question whether or not you're a legitimate candidate for that position, oh, there's complete outrage. How dare you? And that's the thing, that sense of entitlement that Kavanaugh has, that lawmakers have, that drives me absolutely crazy. Because at the end of the day, someone put their life on the line, multiple women have put their lives on the line to share what they allegedly experienced as a result of Brett Kavanaugh's actions in the past. They received nothing out of this. They didn't even get any justice out of this, right? I mean, what this signaled to people like me at least is if you are ever victimized by someone in a position of power, shut up. Do not go out there, do not talk about it, because if you do, the public will ruin your life. At the end of the day, the person who was treated unfairly was Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, because nothing came out of her coming forward and sharing her story.
So look, I hope that's not the lesson. And you never know, because if at some point other information comes out, I don't know what happens then, but it's gonna be an absolute mess for them. And in a lot of ways, it's already a mess for them electorally, because a lot of people feel the way that you feel, Anna, and think, I'm done with these guys. And that's who they are, and they, I'm reminded, it's not to say that this is the same thing, it's apples and oranges, but I'm reminded of the article that I read about slavery a while back that I've talked about on a couple of occasions, where the white propertied Southerners really believed that you were taking their freedom away if you brought freedom to other people. Mm-hmm. They thought, no, that's my property. And these Northern agitators are coming and trying to take my freedom away, my freedom to own other people and to whip them and to kill them and to enslave them and to do unspeakable things to them. That's my freedom, that's my privilege. How dare you take that away from me? And unfortunately, that is permeated to the powerful in this country in a lot of ways. Now, luckily, we're not in a situation where people are doing that anymore, obviously. But in the situation like this, I went to Georgetown Prep. I went to Harvard, the guy's thinking.
I went to Yale.
I went to Yale. I went to all these places. And I'm owed the job of Supreme Court Justice. I was nominated, and all the other Republican men agree that I should be on there and take away some of your rights. How dare you? How dare you be unfair to me? And you could see that anger in Kavanaugh, you could see it in Lindsey Graham, you could see it in Donald Trump. And then, of course, women like Jeanine Pirro come and enable it, and I'm sure she's awfully proud.
Well, I want to go to a lighter part of the interaction that Pirro had with Trump. This was a quick story that we did on No Filter, and I wanted to share it with the main show audience as well. So Donald Trump calls into Jeanine Pirro's Fox show, and they had a little bit of an issue in the very beginning of this interview. Take a look.
Mr. President, thanks for getting back to us.
Dean.
Hi. Okay, so let's get right to it.
How is your reception now, Jeanine? They had a security reception situation, but never sounds too good. Is it okay?
It's okay, and you're on air right now, Mr. President, so
good,
let's get to it.
Good. With you, okay. I like being on air.
Hi. That was amazing. But you know what? I'm sure that short interaction really resonated with Fox News's audience, considering the dominant demographic that watches.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people going like, oh, I could sympathize with that. I mean, when I'm on the phone, I don't know what's going on, who's speaking, what's going on. Look, it's a little bit of a miscommunication. It's not the end of the world. But
it was just funny.
It's just a little bit of fun. But as usual with Trump, even when he's being despicable, he's a tiny bit entertaining. That's what the right wing really likes about him. So the part I was actually more amused by is when he said later in the interview, Jeanine, you have beautiful ratings. Beautiful ratings, okay?
Everything goes everything boils down to ratings, television. Is it good? Is it not good? Is the marketing good? He thinks of everything in terms of a reality show.
Yeah.
And it's devastating because people voted him into office thinking, oh yeah, he's a smart, savvy businessman. He's gonna run the country like a business, which by the way, running the country like a business is a bad idea to begin with. But no. He's not a smart, savvy businessman. He's not running the country like a business. If anything, he's running the country as if it's a giant reality show and it's a disaster.
Well, he's running the country like it's a circus.
Yeah.
And if you're a clown, that makes sense. That's all you've ever worked in before. And so Jeanine Pirro is a maniac. Have you ever watched her show? She comes on air and look, you want to get animated from time to time, I do, right? But she's screaming at the top of her lungs from minute one. And that's just the way she talks. She's like, and now on Jeanine Pirro show. And you're like, well, geez, Lord mercy, what happened, right? And so Trump, we look at this and you go, oh, that's a clown, right?
Yeah.
And Trump looks at it and goes, hey, that's a clown. That's one of my people. She has beautiful ratings. So anyone who kisses ass, which she does on a regular basis, she almost lives up there. Trump absolutely goes, that's it. This is like when Kim Jong-un wrote me a beautiful letter and I fell in love with him. He literally said when he fell in love, that they fell in love together, him and Kim Jong-un. It doesn't matter if you're a murderous dictator or Bozo the Clown on Fox News. There's only one thing he needs for you to kiss his ass. And the minute you do that, good job, Jeanine. Good job. I'm gonna call in on a secure connection here, okay?
Jeanine Pirro strikes me as the type of person who probably stockpiled fenfen when she found out that it was likely gonna be banned by the federal government. She's like, no, I need the fenfen. I feel like she's on fenfen on every single episode. She is on one.
I don't even know what fenfen is.
It was that diet pill that had, people had like heart conditions after taking it.
Okay, well then it's an interesting theory. We don't know for sure, okay?
It is speculation on my part.
You know what? And to be fair to Judge Jeanine Pirro, God, imagine if you were in her courtroom. Like you're like, all right, I'm gonna get some justice here. She's, well, let me tell you what's happening. You're like, Jesus Christ, that's my judge? That's the judge? I'm more stable than she is, and I'm on trial. Okay, anyway, to be fair to Judge Jeanine Pirro, she might have natural fenfen built in.
Maybe.
Okay.
All right, one more story before we go to break. We can keep this master. So, Donald Trump was answering some questions from reporters on Air Force One, and one of the big concerns after the confirmation of Judge Brett Kavanaugh as a Supreme Court justice has been how women in the country feel about all of this. Now, there were multiple accusations regarding sexual assault lodged against Judge Kavanaugh, and so is Donald Trump at all concerned about women? Well, here's his answer.
You talked about how this is a moment for young men across the country. You said it was a scary moment. But what is your message today to the women across this country who are feeling devastated, feeling like the message that's been sent here is that they're not being
I don't think they are. I think actually that women, if you look at the biggest fans, and I can tell you that the people that spoke to me most, really in the strongest of terms, were in his favor were women. You have a lot of women that are extremely happy, a tremendous number of women, because they're thinking of their sons, they're thinking of their husbands and their brothers and their uncles and others.
So he believes that women overall are much more concerned about the well-being of men, and that they're not concerned about themselves at all. They're not concerned that if they are ever sexually assaulted by a man in a position of power, that they shouldn't speak out about it because their lives will be ruined, and the person who is the alleged perpetrator will then go on to be in the highest court of the land.
No, but as usual, he can't help but be over the top absurd. Women are tremendously happy about it. Really? You saw a poll where women at large in the country were, quote, tremendously happy about Kavanaugh being confirmed. No actual poll indicates that, not even close. Who is he thinking of? Probably people like Judge Jeanine Pirro. He went on her show. She is a woman, and she will say anything to cozy up to Donald Trump. So she says, oh, you did a great job. He's like, oh, women are tremendously happy about Kavanaugh. Total freaking clown as always, right? So, and then they're the ones that are strongest in their support of Kavanaugh. I mean, what are you going to do with a guy who's a habitual pathological liar? I mean, what are you going to correct the record of? No, this is the same guy who said that he beat Abraham Lincoln in a poll. There was no polls in Abraham Lincoln's time. I mean, what are you going to do with a guy like this? So, of course he's saying nonsensical things, but I can break it down further. So every guy should be nervous. No, wait a minute. First of all, I think I'm in a decent position to speak here. I wrote some bad things back when I was younger and conservative, and I wanted to be more shocking and politically incorrect, etc. So that was used against me by the right wing. So if actually they do this hatchet job all the time, even though in my case I didn't get caught, I actually changed my point of view decades ago and deleted that stuff decades ago. Because I said, look, that doesn't represent me. But the right wing used it as a hatchet job. So if anyone knows what a hatchet job is, it's me, okay? So no, but I did write those things. If you didn't attempt to rape anyone, unless you're a left winger and the right wing is just gonna make up stuff about you, which they do all the time. I think that's why they assume the Democrats do it too. Because they're like, we're filthy liars and we'll lie for political reasons and destroy people's lives at the drop of a hat. We won't think twice about it. So they do projection onto Democrats, progressives, etc. But is he saying that, oh, now you got to worry about your sons if they try to rape someone, now it's going to come back to them? Well, I think you should be worried about that. Yeah, if you try to rape someone and we find out about it and they're going to have one of the most powerful jobs in the country, yeah, you should. Okay, yeah, I hope we do find out about it, and then you should be worried. In terms of making things up, really, if you're a plumber or you're a dentist, somehow somebody is gonna like something that you didn't do, and they're gonna find people that are gonna testify to it, and they're gonna pass polygraph tests that are gonna have credible testimony that stands up to all the questions thrown at you. All those things are gonna come out of the woodwork to why, right? No, they just want to say, no, man, remember all the stuff you did? Remember all the stuff you did? These guys are they're trying to find out about it, when of course we just want to cover it up, right?
Yeah,
and guys, sorry, Anna, one last thing about that. There are degrees, for Christ's sake. We're not talking about what somebody said in high school, okay? We're talking about attempted rape. And we said it on day one. We said, well, man, you're gonna go back to high school, you better have a high bar. And it was a high bar. It wasn't like, hey, he did something stupid while in high school. We all did something stupid in high school, right? And we've said it a billion times, but again, they turned the aggressor into the victim.
Exactly.
And the victim into some sort of, hatchet person.
Yeah, and one of the more frustrating things that came out of this, so I was listening to this podcast called Left, Right, and Center, and the episode from last Friday featured a Washington Post reporter, someone who considers herself a liberal. I forget her name at the moment, sorry. But she kept talking about how this sets a pretty dangerous precedent, especially when people start going back into your high school years or your college years, and they start judging you by your actions regarding drinking and partying, whatever. No, but look, everything has to be in context, right? So yes, I agree, you set a dangerous standard when you start going into someone's high school experience or college experience, and you start judging them based on their drinking or their partying. But we did it in the context of an individual who was lying over and over again during this hearing. So he was minimized, he brought that onto himself. He minimized his behavior in both high school and college in the context of this hearing to decipher whether or not he committed attempted rape, right? So why did he lie so many times? I mean, that brings his credibility into question. It's not like that was brought up out of nowhere. That was brought up because of his minimizing of his behavior when he was younger. But nonetheless, like if you look at the statistics, when it comes to rape allegations, the vast majority of those rape allegations are not false. There is a tiny fraction, tiny percentage that end up being false. So if you have not committed any type of crime in the past, if you've never sexually assaulted someone in the past, you have nothing to worry about. But they successfully fearmonger. That's what the Republican Party does with a number of issues, whether it's foreign policy issues or issues like this involving rape or attempted rape. They'll somehow convince people that the real enemy here is the alleged victim.
Yeah, and but finally coming back around to his comments about women, which grabbed the most attention out of these particular comments, because he's been talking about poor men who go to Ivy League schools and are appointed to and confirmed as Supreme Court justices. When will they ever get power in this country? I mean, that's the standard shtick, or become president, by the way. That's the standard shtick. But in this case, him going over the top and going, "Oh no, women loved it. When you confirm a Supreme Court justice that is accused of attempted rape, women love it. They're the strongest advocates for it, and they're tremendously happy about it." Oh, for Christ's sake, just buzz off already. Just stop talking for a second. You're the most annoying person on the planet.
Definitely agree with you on that. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, Senator Susan Collins cries about money in politics when it negatively affects her.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. Back on the Young Turks, Zero Divisor in the member comments says Manchin is worse than a Republican. Vindication in these circumstances a bitch. Well, look, I remember when Just Democrats ran a primary candidate against Joe Manchin, the establishment, if they noticed at all, howled. How dare you? This is a Democrat, and he votes with Democrats in important times. Come again? How'd that work out? Okay, we were right, and people talk about like, oh, next time he should be primaried. He was primaried this time, but the press has always paid very little attention and usually was counterproductive because they love the establishment. Okay, Paul Sullivan says, Cenk, over the weekend during a live stream, you said that it came out that Kavanaugh did do everything he was accused of. The bar would be too low even for the Republicans to allow it to stand. I find it interesting that you think they've kept the bar anywhere in sight at all. They'd absolutely let it stand. Well, that is a good question. It depends, of course, on the severity, right? So if there's a very good evidence that comes out that Kavanaugh did in fact do it, yeah, they'll probably let it stand. But if it's overwhelming evidence, Mark Judge flips and says, yeah, sorry, we did it, okay? Me and Kavanaugh were in the room and we did it to Christine Blasey Ford. Would they let that stand?
Yes, they would. They would. In fact, they will then turn on Mark Judge and accuse him of being bought off by George Soros and the Democrats, and it's political. I guarantee you it'll be character assassination. They know, they have no boundaries, period.
Well, that's so far they've certainly shown that. We'll see. I mean, but at that point, remember, it's an impeachment proceedings. It's not a confirmation. So you need a majority of the House, but you need 67 senators. So yeah, you could. I mean, Flake will be gone by then, but you could get the likes of Flake or Collins to flip back, but it ain't going to do you any good because you're going to have to get all the way to Lindsey Graham to win that kind of an impeachment proceedings. So good luck to us. I hear you on that. All right, last one is also in the member section. Eclectic Miscellanea writes in, Susan Collins and Jeff Flake don't actually believe Dr. Blasey Ford is mistaken. I bet they do believe her. They're just so corrupt and so eager to have another conservative on the court that they don't give enough of a damn to let it affect their vote. They just see Blasey Ford and the other accusers as collateral damage on the way to takeover of the court. That's right. And Susan Collins probably tells herself pretty little lies, but maybe not. Maybe she's craven. Maybe she looks in the mirror and go, ha ha, I knew it, they tried to rape her, but I don't care. I just want power. But probably not. Probably the way that it goes is she thinks, yeah, I mean, how do we know? How do we know? Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't. I got to vote for him. Maybe it wasn't. So it probably wasn't. I'm going to vote for him. Okay. And why? Because she got $21 million in bribes to be pro-corporate. He's the most pro-corporate candidate, and she's got all this pressure. She's going to get primaried by Republicans if she ever does anything against Trump, et cetera, right? And so she'll tell herself any lie she's got to do to tell her to get to the position that she's in. But one other thing that we're just going to relate to the stories we're about to do is now theoretically she's pro-choice. So she shouldn't want this conservative a justice who's against Roe versus Wade on the court. But that's why I say it's all in the bribes. She doesn't care about social issues. At the end of the day, the only thing she cares about is the money, Lebowski.
The American oligarchs who didn't get covered much during this whole debacle. They're the ones behind the scenes pushing for or pushed for Kavanaugh's confirmation, and they got what they want. Look, your life doesn't matter. What matters to these politicians is what these corporations want, what these corporate executives want, and how much money they're going to make in their campaigns. It's devastating. Anyway.
Okay, by the way, thank you to the members who wrote that in. And tyt.com/join to become a member. Super important to help build a home of progressives. And we're going to try to deliver a progressive extravaganza for you guys on election night in about 28 days. So please help to make that happen by joining today. All right, let's do it.
All right. Money in politics has been a huge problem in our political system. It undermines democracy. It's something that we've been arguing about here at the Young Turks for quite some time now. But our politicians seem to love the status quo. They never challenge it. It appears they love money in politics, except when money in politics negatively impacts them. Senator Susan Collins is a prime example of that. Now, she voted in favor of Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation to the Supreme Court. And she was very well aware of CrowdPAC, which is a political action committee that raised money in an effort to convince Collins to vote against Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation. Now, anyone who contributed money to CrowdPAC was basically helping to fund her opponent if she voted in favor of Kavanaugh. Now, of course, she voted in favor of Kavanaugh, and CrowdPAC has raised more than $3.5 million for whoever Collins' opponent will be. Now, she's up for re-election in 2020, and she was asked about all this during a segment on 60 Minutes.
Now, this is filled with unbelievable hypocrisy.
Yes.
We're going to break it down, and I'm going to rage a little bit about it and tell you the reality after we watch it. First, let's look.
Collecting funds for whoever your opponent may be in 2020. And the deal was that if you voted for Kavanaugh, then the credit card pledges would be processed. If you voted against Kavanaugh, they wouldn't process the credit card numbers, and something over $2 million was raised.
This is a classic quid pro quo as defined in our bribery laws. They are asking me to perform an official act, and if I do not do what they want, $2 million plus is going to go to my opponent. I think that if our politics has come to the point where people are trying to buy votes and buy positions, that we are in a very sad place.
Hilarious. If people are trying to buy votes and buy positions, we're in a very sad place. Susan Collins, America would like to say hello. Washington would like to meet you. Are you kidding me? So let me show you how much Susan Collins has taken over the course of her career. Let's go to graphic 6 here. Yeah, that's over $21 million that Susan Collins has raised and then spent on her own behalf of political career and races that she has run, okay? So, all right, let's get this right. So you're telling me that massive corporations and their PACs gave you money, what, for their health? Because of charity? Because you were doing such great work in Maine? And all the oil companies and the defense contractors and every other company that bribed you didn't bribe you. And they didn't care about your votes at all. I mean, they were thinking of giving it to the local dentist, but changed their minds and said, you know what? Let's do charity for this politician instead. Oh, what a wonderful coincidence. Nobody could have seen this coming. Susan Collins votes with our interests every time. But that's not a quid pro quo. That's not a sad place where people buy your votes. No, Susan Collins, I got news for you. You are the corruption. You are. Well, you took all that money, and they didn't do it for charity. They did it for a return on investment. And the first time they gave it to you, it was a test. Hey, will she do anything we tell her? The second time they gave it to you was, hey, that we got a nice return on investment. That's what corporations do. They're not in the charity business. They're in the profit-making business. They profited off of your votes. So they said, hey, that's a good return on investment. Let me keep giving to Susan Collins because she's exactly the kind of corrupt politician that we like to bribe. So your whole career is based on bribery. And now you turn around and say, but wait a minute, these aren't big corporate interests. These aren't super PACs. This is just regular Americans getting involved in politics. Unacceptable, unacceptable. Now all of a sudden, she found out people are trying to buy votes. After getting $21 million in bribes, all of a sudden Susan Collins realizes there's gambling in this establishment and she's just shocked about it.
No, it's incredible. So, I mean, think about it. Under her logic, okay, corporations are people who should have protected speech, and so their donations to her campaign should be protected under the First Amendment. But American people, we're not people, right? So if she does something that we dislike and we fund something that would help her opponent, oh my God, this is quid pro quo. This is bribery. Can you believe, this is horrible. No, but guess what? We're people too, right? So if we're gonna have a corrupt political system where money has more influence than going to the polls and voting, then you better believe that we're gonna go ahead and take advantage of it and help fund your opponent. Now, at the moment, there isn't an opponent. And as I mentioned, she's not up for re-election until 2020, but she's scared and they've raised more than $3.5 million already for whoever's gonna run against her.
Yeah, so let me make a bold prediction in a sec. But by the way, this is the same complaint they have about Wolfpack. They go, hey, Wolfpack is to get money out of politics, get a convention, get an amendment, and go above the head of the Supreme Court. You don't like Kavanaugh? Great, you don't need the Supreme Court. Constitutional amendment, we're done with it. No more private financing of elections. We're gonna end the bribery completely. wolf-pac.com/join. Go find out about it, see if you wanna participate. Now, when Wolfpack takes money from you guys, and it's all small dollar donations, and they spend $50,000 on a local state election, people have heart attacks. They're like, how could you do this to us? I can't believe you were spending money in politics. Well, there's a great way to end that. Get money out of politics. Otherwise, shut up about it. Sorry, Susan, you take the bribes. Now all of a sudden when real Americans donate to you, donate against you, all of a sudden, it turns out they're trying to influence our votes. I mean, come on, are you really that? Look, I gotta ask you, I mean, are you that stupid?
No, she's not stupid.
No, you're not. No, I don't want people to misunderstand me. I don't think Susan Collins is stupid. I think she's fundamentally corrupt. She's systematically and systemically corrupt because she's part of a system where she takes $21 million and gives exactly what those people want, and then she turns around and cries about this. So here's a prediction. There's no way the Republicans don't challenge that $3.5 million. You think they're just gonna let it stand? No, they're gonna go to court and try to deny you guys the right and the ability to give money. So they're gonna make the argument Anna just said, that corporations are human beings, but you are not.
People are not people in the United States. Corporations, though, are people.
They're gonna say that corporations, since they are human beings, they have First Amendment rights, and we think speech, money is not money, it's not property. Money's obviously property. No, it's not property, it's actually speech that a human can say. But when you, an actual human being, give money, no, you're not allowed to. That's not within the First Amendment. You have to shut up and not give $5 or $10, but corporations can give anything they like. I guarantee you that they make that case. And now with Kavanaugh in the Supreme Court, conveniently enough, it'll go to the Supreme Court, and Kavanaugh should obviously recuse himself. This vote is about him. The money was about him. My guess is, knowing that he has no scruples, no principles whatsoever, he's like, what do I care? I'm already on the Supreme Court. You had your shot and you didn't win. So I'm not gonna recuse myself. And I'm gonna say, yeah, of course, illegal. Real people giving money against Republicans, illegal. Corporations, huge billionaires giving money to Republicans to serve them, legal. Even if they don't win, that will definitely be the argument that they make.
Ugh, it's pathetic. Okay, well, let's talk about potential opponents.
Yeah.
Senator Susan Collins could be facing an opponent in the 2020 election. That's when she's up for re-election. And the reason why we're having a conversation about this to begin with is because Senator Collins voted in favor of Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation to the Supreme Court. Now, Susan Rice, a former Obama aide, tweeted something that made it seem as though she's considering running for Senate in Maine. And Collins did not like that. In fact, she went on CNN and spoke to Dana Bash about it, and here's what she had to say.
The political backlash, I don't have to tell you, has been fierce. You saw a tweet from Susan Rice saying that maybe she would run. The Speaker of the House in Maine, a crowdfunding website has raised $2.6 million for whomever your opponent will be in 2020.
As far as Susan Rice is concerned, her family has a home in Maine, but they don't. She doesn't live in the state of Maine. Everybody knows that. But the irony is, back in 2009, when she was nominated to be ambassador of the UN, she came to me, even though I did not know her back then at all, and pleaded with me to introduce her before the committee.
Just one quick clarification. Senator Collins has a home in DC where she lives most of the time with her husband. Just a little point that I wanted to make before we move on to the other accusations that she made. Now, look, we don't know for sure if Susan Rice is gonna run against her, but what she had said about Susan Rice coming to her and begging for an endorsement when she wanted to be ambassador to the UN is complete and utter nonsense. In fact, reporters did dig up some of what Susan Collins had said. And Cenk, I wanna quickly go to that video and then I'll toss it over to you. Take a look.
It is my privilege today to introduce Dr. Susan Rice, the President-elect's nominee to be the next United States ambassador to the United Nations. The people of Maine are proud of what this remarkable woman has accomplished in her distinguished career of service to our nation. And we take special pride in her strong ties to our state. Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Uygur, I can think of no better message to convey to the United Nations and no better messenger than Dr. Susan Rice. I'm honored to present her to this distinguished committee, and I enthusiastically endorse her nomination. Thank you. Thanks to all the members of the committee.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Collins. What a wonderful introduction. Remind me that if I am ever in need of an introduction, I want to put in my reservation right now. It doesn't get better than that.
Doesn't get better than that.
No, my favorite though was her now saying she doesn't really live in Maine. Not only did that video overwhelmingly prove her deep connections to Maine, but also on Susan Collins' website, it talked about UN ambassador nominees' deep roots in Maine. That's Susan Collins' words. And here's another quote from the website. Dr. Rice's ties to our great state are the foundation of her character. Not only is she from Maine, it's the very foundation of her character that she's from Maine.
Yeah.
Guess what they did with those quotes from the website? Scrubby dub dub. They immediately deleted all that from the website.
No, but this is what I love about our lawmakers, right? Like, once it's out there on the internet, it exists forever, right? Screenshots exist, that lovely video that we just shared with all of you, that exists. Like, you can't wipe that from the record, right? Just because you cleaned it, off of your website doesn't mean it doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. I just love it.
Yeah, but to be fair to them, they're incredibly old. So it's possible they don't know what the internet is. I mean, I remember the famous speech where Senator Ted Stevens was like, "It is a series of tubes." Okay, not really. No, they keep making the same mistake. Like, I think in the old days, when they first came up as politicians, it was incredibly hard to find tape of them saying something at a rally or at when they were on TV. I don't think they caught on to everything's on tape, it's on the internet, right? And so they're by instinct liars. And they lie all the time. Susan Collins is a deep liar. I can't believe anybody gives money to politicians. Did I get $21 million? And then expects them to vote their way. Me? Vote with the people who gave me $21 million? I would never, right? And then that little smug elitist laugh she has, like, Susan Rice, she's not even from Maine. Oh, please. Okay, so now two more things about this though. One is, I did not appreciate her Trumpian flair there when she's like, she pleaded with me to give her the introduction.
Right, yes, I noticed that too. I feel like, man, it's a little disastrous how much his rhetoric is rubbing off on everyone else, members of the media, other lawmakers. That's not okay.
Yeah, and so look, Susan Rice, she's fine. Do I think she should definitely be the candidate? No, I don't think that. I think there should be a primary. So that's point number two. The Democrats are now salivating at the mouth to get at that $3.5 million. So the minute that you guys, real people, raise that money, they're like, establishment is going to get that, right? Oh, hold on. Nobody died and made Susan Rice the Democratic nominee in Maine. So that, I hope, will be a spirited contest, okay?
I agree, absolutely.
And I would want to give it to someone who's a real progressive, who then later isn't going to pull all this moderate crap that Democrats and Republicans do whenever there's tax cuts for the rich, right? So that's exactly what we're trying to get rid of in Maine. So I don't know what Susan Rice is going to do, but this line of attack against Susan Rice is ridiculous. That somehow she's not from Maine when you are the one person who went nuts over how much she's from Maine, right? And this whole thing about how she pleaded with you. No, she asked you, can you do the intro? Because we're from the same state. You did a nice intro. You could have left it at that. And you know what you could do? You could be honest for the first time in your life. And if it turns out you're running against Susan Rice, you can say, hey, you know what? Look, I know that I don't live in Maine and she doesn't live in Maine and we're both elitist politicians. But hey, you know what? And I gave her a nice intro. She has some nice things, but we disagree. Here's what I'm going to fight for. Here's what she's going to fight for. And so you should vote for me. I know for a politician that's unacceptable. You have to do a character attack immediately. You have to do stupid attacks about where people live when you have no leg to stand on whatsoever, etc. So she goes low immediately. And remember why the establishment loved Susan Collins in the first place. She's above it. She's bipartisan. So whenever there's a tax cut for the rich, she votes for it. She's so bipartisan, right? And she doesn't get in the gutter. All of a sudden, she's in the gutter with Trump talking about, oh, she was pleading with me to give the speech. All that was missing was this, like some sort of Trumpian hand motion while she was saying it. So her attacks against Susan Rice in this context are nonsense. And Democratic establishment, that's not your money. That was given by a lot of hardworking Americans to find a progressive in Maine who's actually going to vote as a progressive and not like Susan Collins.
Let's take a break. When we come back, Mitch McConnell gets called out about his own hypocrisy. It was a pretty fantastic exchange. We'll have that and more when we return.
Yeah, just one more thing, because I remembered I'm not done with Susan Collins yet.
Oh.
Okay, so yeah, I'm on the warpath. Her talk about money in politics is obviously what enraged me. But speaking of money, she received some money from pro-choice groups. I want to talk about that when we come back. So, oops is the theme, but the details are important. We'll do that when we return.